Welcome, everybody, to episode 20 of the Amazon Connect podcast. And with me, as usual, I have my wonderful co host, Doug. How are you today?
I'm really well, Mark. I'm thrilled to be here. I am back from some time in New Zealand, which was super fun. And it looks like you
Great.
were at an airport. Are you?
No, I'm actually sitting in a Starbucks right now. I'm up in DC. There's a race going on this weekend, an Amazon sponsored race for it's called the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, and
Oh,
it's a big event, and Amazon is a big sponsor of it. And riding there's I think over 100 riders from the Amazon side, so it's going to be a cool weekend, a cycling weekend up here in
that's amazing. So
DC.
you
Yeah.
are arriving for it.
I am arriving for it. Yes, yes.
Wow.
So I came
Okay.
up early today. So yes, so it's a great cause. Raise a lot of good money for it as well.
Do you have your bike with you?
I do. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I don't have it with me right here, but
right.
maybe in a future episode we can bring it on.
Now, I thought in this episode it would be great if we had a surfer dude from Southern California come
Yes,
on
I think
in,
that's yes.
and
And
so I say, cowabunga to our guest,
No one
who
says
we
that.
have.
No one says that, but thank you. Thank you for the
unless
warm
you know the
welcome.
Teenage Ninja Turtles, like that's probably about the only time you'd bring it up.
Well, I
And
beg to differ.
yeah,
But
okay,
this rad
yeah.
and gnarly dude, who is people who are watching will already see, who has kindly positioned a surfboard directly behind him just to prove
Yes.
that he really is in San Diego. But Jim Kraeutler, please,
Honestly, that's exactly why I did it. That's why it's there. So yes,
Yeah, yes.
thanks for
please
noticing.
introduce yourself and tell us why we have proficiency based routed you into the podcast.
Okay. I'll let you say why I'm here, maybe. But
Okay.
everyone, nice to be here. Very excited to finally be on the podcast. My name's Jim Kraeutler. I'm a product manager on the Amazon Connect service team, along with Mark, your august host. And my focus is on self-service experiences, and in particular, over the last years, I joined Amazon and Connect 7.5 years ago. At this point, almost 8 years ago now. And I've been more or less focused on this space the entire time, and really highly focused on voice self-service and the challenges associated with building great voice self-service experiences and making that easier for customers in Connect. That's me.
Well, let's not bury the lead here. What the
Yeah, and
dickens
so
have you been? Oh, sorry. I just want to
no,
know
I
what
was
the
gonna
dickens
say,
he's been up to. What have you been doing?
yeah,
Why? Like we mentioned at the end of the last podcast, and Mark, do you want to ask the question? But I mean, really, that's the guts of it. What the dickens has
yeah,
Jim
no.
been
I
up
mean,
to?
we talked about this in the last part, right? We talked about Connect Customer, right?
Yeah,
And
we did.
and as we were talking through Connect Customer and the value of leveraging all of Connect's AI capabilities end to end,
Talent decisions and health, all the good
right?
stuff.
Yes, and all of that stuff, and then NLX came up, right? We made this NLX acquisition, and a lot of people were like, "Well, what is NLX? Why did Connect acquire NLX? What is it?" So Jim,
It's
I think
all anyone has been
you know,
talking to me about. It is
yeah, yeah,
basically we've announced we've acquired it, and we've spoken about what it is in those
hmm
announcements. But this is
we wanted to go
this.
to the source. So with that, Jim, maybe kind of give us sort of an overview in terms of how we should think about what NLX is, and what's the value to us, right, and our customers ultimately.
Sure. Happy to do that. All right. So NLX, maybe a good place to start is, what does NLX stand for?
I was
So
going to. Do you know what? I was actually thinking as Mark was rambling on there endlessly. I was thinking, should I ask him what it stands for? And I thought, geez, it would be embarrassing if Jim doesn't know what it stands for. So
Yeah.
thank goodness for that. So what does it stand for, Jim?
natural language experiences, which, as we get into it, that's just going to make a ton of sense. And you will and should feel bad for not having figured that out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking to you, Doug.
It does dog you slightly in that experience does begin with E. NLE.
No, NLX.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's like the X is right there. I mean, the X is like the X is doing the most
I
work
get
in
it.
the
I
word
get it.
experience.
It is doing the work.
Right?
It is doing the work.
It's
Yeah.
like
Any
it's like
word that
CX
X is
stuff.
in,
Yeah.
any word that
Yes,
X
it's
is
like-
in, it's
Yeah.
carrying the most.
Touche,
weight,
Mark.
You know what I'm
Touche.
saying?
Touche.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so NLX means natural language experiences, and what it is they're a longtime partner of Amazon Connect. Have been, of course, built entirely on AWS, and very, very well integrated to Connect. And what they're focused on is helping customers build natural language experiences, and building great experiences easier, faster, uh, um, given everything that they built into the product.
So how does it do
That's
that? What makes it faster and easier?
So a lot of different things that they built in. That's kind of where the origin story of NLX, I guess, comes in, and then maybe I'll weave it back to why we made this action, or why we made this investment, and that, maybe it'll already become clear at that point. So the founders of NLX, Andre, the CEO and founder in particular, he is a kind of a luminary in the space, if you will. He lectures at uh, uh, what was it?
Columbia?
Columbia University and NYU. Sorry, that one I was like thinking Cornell, and I knew that was wrong. So yeah, he currently lives in New York City. Currently, still lectures at Columbia and NYU, and on this very subject and computer science in general. He um, he started his career at American Express, and the area that he was working on was building the self-service experiences on voice and chat for American Express. And as a young, kind of hotshot engineer, he
Still seems very
he
young.
ran up.
He's aging
What's that?
well. He still
He's
seems
still
very
pretty
young.
young. He's younger than
Yeah.
the three of us. But anyway, he
As is most of the planet, Jim.
that's fair. It's very fair. Yep. But he ran up against a lot of challenges, not just like not just the common challenges that you come across in building these experiences, because they're not easy. But he also ran up against organizational challenges, where people would tell him, we don't do it that way, we can't do it. That's not possible. And so, being a great engineer, and a free thinker, he would go home at night and he would write some code, or do some research, and come back in and be like, here you go, I did it. Why can't we do it? And so he made a lot of progress that way. Maybe not as many friends as projects that he completed, but eventually he kind of got the idea that these persistent problems that he was coming across are things that every organization is going to have, and these are things like in the last generation of speech technology. There's not a whole lot of expertise out in the marketplace, and it was a fairly esoteric set of skills.
Well, we've spoken about this, I think, on the podcast. I certainly spend a lot of time talking about it to customers.
Yeah, we definitely brought up aspects of it for sure, right? In terms of the complexity. I mean, we've talked about Lex ad nauseum as well, right? Around
So for example, like there's tons of certification programs, training out there on how to build an AWS. We have great training programs, and developers can get skilled up on a variety of AWS capabilities, and similarly, it is fairly easy in the marketplace to find highly skilled Python developers, as an example, right? People that can write applications in common programming languages, right?
But I think
speech
as
applications
well,
depend on a more esoteric set of historically depend on a much more esoteric set of protocols, like SRGS for developing grammars, and there were just nuances in the way that you built things, like coding a post-processing script in order to take what someone says as their response to a question in an IVR, such as how many people are, if you're booking a hotel, how many people are in your party? And I say, well, it's myself, my wife, and my two kids. What they need to hear is 2 adults and 2 children. So you can write code to parse through that and to post process it and say, okay, this looks like 2 adults and 2 children. Verify that with the customer via prompt. So 2 adults and 2 children, is that correct? Oh, yes. And then you move on. So these things are possible, but they were not only um, not only difficult, but relied on an esoteric set of skills that were not widely available in the marketplace. And the second that people learn these things, they would quickly go somewhere else. There's also, when you're thinking about a voice application, I don't think this is, Doug, you made this point beautifully to me when we first met, that
Sure, I
the
did.
you did, and I'd love for you to go back through exactly how you did it because you'll remember. We often say this in the around the category of speech applications, right? So in a speech application, speech is the user interface, right? It's my voice. The voice, the conversation itself is the UI.
Yes.
And so there is a design aspect to that. Now, the hardest thing out there to find is not just the design part, it's the skills to build this thing, right? But the design part is still incredibly important. And do you remember now the point that you made to me? Do you want me to make it, or do you want
I
to?
make it most days.
Go
My
ahead.
wife
You,
thinks I'm
you say
great
it. Take it
company.
away. Take it away.
If you think about your organization's website, and I'm going to use the Amazon.com website because it's to hand, and you look back at the very first, and I encourage people to Google the first Amazon.com website when they get a chance, and they will see it looks like something from GeoCities, which again, people from us younger than us may not remember, but it's very, very simplistic, very Web 1.0 website, and you compare that
It's
to now.
essentially what a year ago when you would ask AI to generate a website for you. That's
Yes,
essentially what the equivalent of GeoCities was.
and then you compare that to what the Amazon.com is now, and it's incredible. Like all the functions and features and the recommendations, and there's even now, thanks to Rufus, there's an AI agent there helping you. There's all these kinds of amazing stuff. Now you compare,
But it's no longer just a menu of boldface, hyperlinks with a description underneath them that take you to another page where you can just, it's a full UI that is intuitive, right?
and guides you
fun
through
to
how to and buy it now buttons and all those. So much innovation on that website.
Right.
And
So of course that
true.
requires design, right? Of
It
course that
does.
requires design
And experimentation.
Yep. And it's no different with speech, right? With speech, you have to even be more careful with the design to make it something that people want to interact
You
with
didn't
and are
let me get
willing
to
to
my
interact
point,
with.
though. I know I was taking too long to get there, but what I was trying to say was if most organizations then think about how much effort and thought they've put into their voice design, they would be horrified by how little. I mean, they'll have spent millions on the website, certainly thousands, and yet they've not spent. It's Doug from the back office, the guy who runs the PBX, has designed their voice interface. Like, with
100%.
absolutely no
Yes,
thought has
yes.
gone into it. He's just,
But Yep, and it gets to like the second challenge here is that there is also in building good speech application, like in building any good application, right? There is both design and the execution. So there's the technical, the technical team, developers that are going to implement the design. Then there's the design aspect that's really important. And to put those two together for a speech application was an even harder and more rare combination of skills
it's probably the
for
biggest problem.
your
It is the
bank, your
biggest problem.
healthcare company, your insurance company to find and to hold on to those people, because once those people got good at what they were doing, they became very rare and valuable resources in the marketplace. So what NLX did is both solve a lot of these technical challenges, everything from making it much easier to create an API call to your backend system in order to identify the caller based on their phone number, right? Very simple use case, but everything from those backend integrations, which are very important for any application to work, right? To the best practices and the designs that are going to make a enjoyable, functional conversational experience that callers are actually going to interact with, rather than start pressing 0 because they got so frustrated, right? And so the things that NLX built in were a combination of those, right? Making it easier to design, building in some of those design best practices, and then building in a lot of capabilities that obviate the need for standard developers, even for the backend integrations, but also those highly specialized speech developers.
So is it bringing a playbook of sorts, Jim, into this, right? In terms of trying to drive sort of that prescriptive approach, or is it?
There's absolutely a playbook that and a set of talent that comes along. We found great talent in the organization and saw a great opportunity to grow that talent, which I think I'd love to come back to in this conversation. I think that in this stage of AI and conversational AI, the mix of talent is going to change a lot of what an organization wants to have available to be able to continue to innovate and manage these applications. So it's a mix of that and actually what they built into the product, right? And the second thing that we saw very quickly was a great alignment between what I think was an early intuition of ours as we got into this latest generation of AI, LLM powered AI capabilities. That we had an early intuition with our customers. We work with a lot of very large customers, a lot of customers in regulated industries. That as powerful and as great as these capabilities are, as easy as well as LLMs understand and can interact via human speech. So they do make it easier for us to build these applications, easier than they've ever been before. There's going to remain a need for deterministic AI, for structured AI. So
let's pause for a second because I want to spell this out for people. And I realize, Mark, you had a question there, but this is such an important point.
Go ahead. Because totally.
There are every single customer I speak to, there is someone in that organization, and sometimes it's someone quite senior who says, I use ChatGPT or I use Claude on the weekend or at home. I want that at the front door of my organization. That's the issue right there. They say, well, why can't I have it? I talk to Claude. Claude's awesome. I talk to Perplexity. I talk to, it's like that should be how people interact with our organization. What is the problem with that, Jim? And I know we can talk for hours on this. Let's punch this one.
Well, there's no problem with that idea, right? Like I don't want to give our executives a bad name or any of us make us think that any of us are not having a natural reaction here. Like when you do talk to Claude, when you do talk to ChatGPT or you said Perplexity, right? When you have these speech-based experiences with the new technology, it's amazing. And it's very natural, I think, after that to ask the question like, wow, why is it so hard when I call my bank? Why is it so hard, when I call to file a claim for insurance or order a new credit card or, refill a prescription? Why am I doing it this old way? Right.
My car got stolen 2 days ago, so this is very fresh for me.
Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think where we're at in the this moment in time is this moment where people are having this experience with consumer grade applications and seeing how easy it is to for the technology to understand and to interact with them in a natural way, and wanting to make that part of the customer service operation and experience that we offer to customers. Right.
But I think that's the essence is when we say in a natural way, Jim, like what that's way harder than it sounds though.
It is, but that's also where I think we get led astray, or we see organizations get led astray is that we have these experiences with the consumer grade apps that are speech to speech, right? They're just self-contained. There's the speech understanding, the reasoning, the text to speech to actually render.
So there's three jobs there. There's almost certainly more, but I think this is a really interesting part that I think a lot of people won't grasp. Is the as you say, the understanding what's being said, the reasoning, the thinking up the response, and then the actual reading back of the response. All three of them require AI to work in concert and have different requirements that you can't just use one single model or one single LLM to do all those tasks well.
I mean, in certain use cases you can, right? And that's where we're having this consumer grade experience with these, whether it's call or whatever on our phone, and we're having this great natural experience, right? But for an organization of any size, an organization that's processing any kind of transactions for the customers, that's handling any kind of personal information, they are not yet, for a variety of reasons, at the point where handing all of that conversation over to what is called a unary model, a single model that does all three of those elements that you just described well there, Doug.
Mhm.
Just hand it over to them, give it access to all their APIs, and say, have at it, go solve problems for my customers and process transactions. Like, thankfully, our banks, the folks that run our banks, our healthcare, insurance companies, etc., they are not yet at that point where they're handing over to an agent the keys to the castle, if you will, and saying, go ahead and talk to my customers and process all of my transactions. Here are my
Well,
APIs. Go for it.
and to spell it out, all three of those moments, again, Mark, sorry, well, I'll let you go now. All three of those moments,
That's all
whether
good,
it is
Doug.
the understanding, the reasoning, or the talking back, the text to speech, all three of them can suffer from hallucinations.
True.
And
Yeah,
and that
that is the risk, right?
and that's
That's
what
one of
that
the key risks.
yeah. And
Yep.
it's
So
when and even if it's not hallucinations, one question I find a good challenge statement to organizations, and if they say yes, then that's terrific. But most of them don't, and that is, do you want a different answer coming back to the same question? Because
mhm.
ultimately an LLM will give you a different answer each time. It may have the same information, but it's going to be a slightly different answer. Now, does a bank
That's right.
want that?
That's where deterministic. That's where the term deterministic comes in. So what is the opposite of deterministic is probabilistic, and LLMs are inherently probabilistic models, right? So they are going to come up with something very close, and if you put guardrails on and you carefully prompt them and you control, you exercise these controls that we have over how they behave, you will get something relatively close to what you're looking for every time, but it's not going to be exactly that same thing, you know?
And at scale, it might be only be correct 95% of the time, might be correct 99% of the time, and that is a tolerance that is not acceptable in healthcare, in banking, and all the rest. But we need to let Mark talk because he's tried like three
No,
times. I
I
kept
mean,
talking over him.
no, it's all good, Doug. This is usual for the podcast, right? So,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Jim, this is what we go through every podcast. So
Yeah,
no
I think I
worries
still
there. You
haven't
I
know,
get
answered the
excited. I
first
get
question
excited. I'm
of like
sorry.
why we made this
yes,
investment with NLX, but we'll get there.
yes, yeah,
Go ahead.
we'll get there for sure. But I mean, I think kind of the other aspect, I think when we talk about reasoning a lot, right, is that context window, and right, like, and the fact that it has to be highly performant because you're having this real time conversation, yet you're going to interrupt it. You're going to right. You're going and it's going to sound natural, and all these things that you've got to pull into that as part of the model. And then on top of that, customers want optionality around these models too, right? Because they see
Hmm.
different performance from that, as well. So maybe talk a little bit about that in terms of how we think that plays out, right? In terms of some of the challenges and what we're trying to overcome with leveraging NLX. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So let's focus on a challenge for a second, then we'll bring it all back
Yeah.
together with NLX at the
Totally.
end of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the because at least my brain gets confused. So those challenges, you're right. So there's opportunity for hallucination and inconsistencies at sort of every stage that Doug described before. So on the ingress side, I'm a caller speaking to one of the organizations I do business with, and I'm saying what I need to do. I would like to check my account balance, pay a bill, and I'm interested in the latest mortgage rates in my area, right? And the first challenge is understanding exactly what I just said. And understanding what I just said involves first speech to text, so transcribing my speech into text and doing that accurately, right? Very, very accurately, especially when you're confirming my name, my account balance, my account number, the date I want to make a payment, my address, the number of people in my party when I'm booking a hotel, any of those things.
Historically, my my first name, excuse me, Doug, has been difficult because it is the past tense of dig. So
Yeah,
even
yeah,
something that's
that's actually a really good
Yes.
one. Keep
A
going
good
on
one.
that.
Yeah.
I like where you're going with that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
yeah. So I mean, regularly it is mistranscribed or misunderstood in the context of what I'm saying. Yes, LLMs are really good at it. Normally get it now. Will understand where it is. But as I say, historically, particularly Lex bots I've built and things like that. Douglas gets it every time. Doug, no, that's a
Right, and
past
that
tense of
brings up
dig.
the second challenge, right? So the first
Yeah.
challenge is just transcribing what you said
Mhm.
accurately and then feeding that to what historically, the last generation of technology was an an
Mhm.
NLU engine, right? That can
Mhm.
um, that has a training to understand what you might mean by that. So by given this, this utterance and this string of text, the customer is trying to do this thing, and here's the intent we have built for that. Now you're going to ask them this question, then you're going to gather this information, and then we can proceed on to help them with their problem or get them in touch with the right agent, human agent.
And let's be frank, that is the technology that has generated a lot of bad will, a lot of ill will in the towards chatbots. The previous generation, people were not particularly well disposed towards self-service because it would often misunderstand and all that. Yeah.
Maybe this is where I'm a bit of a technologist. Like it's as a kid growing up, the idea that a computer. I mean, I remember the first computer I had was one of those gigantic IBMs. I think my parents spent like $5,000 on it, right? And
mine was a Sinclair ZX81. Yeah.
The coolest thing you could do is play King's Quest, right? Like there wasn't a whole lot there. So the idea that one of these
Larry.
Yeah. Oh, hey, that was you. That was you.
Yes.
I didn't know you were inviting me to that kind of podcast, guys.
It was a more innocent time when that was the rudest thing in your life.
Yes,
anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea that like one of these machines could understand what I was saying, right, and then much less do something with that, help me do a thing or solve a problem is still, dude, that's a hard problem. That's an amazing thing that we have made easier or even possible, despite the fact that it wasn't great. Now, enter LLMs. LLMs understand human speech much, much better. Nature of the technology, and that's why we're having these experiences with these consumer grade technologies and applications. But the problem that you brought up there with Doug is a really good one. So Doug means Douglas Park in this case, but it could also mean you just got finished digging up a hole in the backyard. And that can confuse an LLM. So that can confuse the system. So the way that an LLM does a great job with that is it builds context. It's not just looking at the word Doug, right? And even if the transcription engine takes the highest probability of Doug, which is DUG, rather than DOUG, the LLM is going to be able to build context by looking at the other things that you said and say, oh, he's saying his name. And that's going to be DOUG. And so I can.
And Doug, if you were a contractor, this would be a mess.
But I mean, I also concede that the O in my name is completely useless, about as useless as the E is in experience, to bring this back to the very first point we made. But so NLX.
So while it's good at that, it still has some areas where it can hallucinate. And I think we are all very familiar with the idea of hallucinations via LLMs. Like it might invent data. If you ask it a question, process. I had an experience where I gave Claude, who I love Claude. This is not me disparaging Claude at all. I gave Claude a very big data set at the end of the year last year, where I was looking to get some answers for my leadership, and the answers that I came back with, when I processed this very large spreadsheet, were just not making sense. Right? Shopped that around with a couple other people. Went back and they said, yeah, this doesn't make sense either. Went back to Claude, started to ask some more questions. I really thought I had controlled for all of this in the prompt, wrote a very careful prompt. And at the end of it, you finally get the answer back that, yeah, you gave me a 10,000 line, a table that was over 10,000 rows. I couldn't possibly read through all of that. So I read through some of it and I made some assumptions. I'm like, yeah, that wasn't the task. That wasn't what I asked you to do.
Yeah.
But this is a thing that LLMs also can do.
The challenge
so we're familiar with
I
that.
often have is when there is an absence of information. So let's say the capabilities of Amazon Connect, we're very good at saying what we do, but we don't make it clear what we don't do. And so oftentimes an LLM will, if you ask it a question about something we haven't mentioned, will go, well, I think it probably does, and I'm keen to give him an answer, so I'll just make that up.
Yeah, you're getting back to where we started, which, thank you for keeping us on task, Douglas.
Trying.
Is this idea of blended deterministic and agentic or generative AI. And again, this is something that we had very early intuition based on our experience with customers and folks like you in the organization that have been in this industry for 20 years.
27.
That this is what customers are going
Nobody's
to
counting,
Doug.
Yeah,
these large organizations, especially in regulated industries, they're not going to be ready to turn all of their APIs, access to their backend financial transactional systems, along with a two an LLM powered agent, and just say, here's, go have conversations with my customers and execute all of their transfers, bill payments, everything that they might have to do. Right? They're not likely. We had an early intuition that wasn't likely to be a workable situation for many customers.
I'm
So
gonna
what we found
ram
with
in my analogy here that I always use, which is the self-driving car. A self-driving car goes about the place, it kills one person, and everyone says we can't use self-driving cars ever again because we can't risk this, despite the fact that, and I agree with that. I think that is an appropriate standard. But really, logically, I mean, cold logic, it should be we should use self-driving cars so long as they kill one fewer people than humans do, because it feels different when a machine gets something wrong than when a human makes a mistake. Because people often say, because we're giving a very hard time to LLMs on this call because we are setting up the problem, but the idea that the people often come back with, well, human agents make mistakes all the time. So why can't I accept a certain amount of error over here? And I've just always like to point out that it feels different. There's something uncontrolled about, well, I don't know, I've just let this, for want of a better term, robot handle my customer service in the front of my organization. I don't know if it's going to make a mistake. That feels different to, hey, my agents are fallible. My human agents, I should say, are fallible, and I need to keep training them and looking after them, all the rest of it, which is an important
100%.
distinction, I think. Yeah,
And I think everyone, at least this is my experience working with customers in this space, every customer wants to be first or at least early in making the best experience available to their customers and using technology in the best way to improve that customer experience and make it easier for customers to solve
oftentimes
problems.
it's the only way they're differentiating from their competitors. Oftentimes they're doing the same job. So this is, yeah.
But no one wants to be first in having the scandal or the bad situation where the technology makes a mistake, right? So this is where the blend of deterministic and agentic come in, is how can we practically leverage the new technology for all the things that it's great at and that were impossible or too hard to do before to make it worthwhile. And then leverage deterministic capabilities, on rails, rules-based type capabilities to when we're handling PII, for example, personally identifiable information, or executing a transaction where we need to interact with a system of record or a transactional system, right? And that's what we long thought that would be the case with customers. We, if anything, over the last 24 or 18 months since LLMs made their debut and have changed this change what's possible here, we've only become more convicted in that. And what we found with NLX is not only this great solution, great talented team that built in a lot of the capabilities to make it much easier to build these experiences, and to do so in a really intuitive, or at least a very low code way, right? With the sort of a maniacal focus on also making it easy to blend deterministic and the latest agentic capabilities. So you can, for example, start with a very generative LLM powered experience when the customer first calls in, and greet them with very lifelike sounding experience, ask them what they need to do. Customer can rattle on, as I'm doing right now, and say 5 different things that they want to do at once, and you can still understand that. Okay, I understand you want to do this first and then that and then that. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, let's start here, right? And in that process, a customer may have questions that they want to ask. Like if I'm applying for a mortgage, I might say, well, what are the rates right now? If I'm going through the process of entering an application, I might get nervous when you ask me for my social security number, or read me the disclaimer that you're going to run a hard credit check. And I might have questions about that. Well, is that going to affect my credit? And being able to, this is where you usually, in a self-service experience, get off ramp to an agent or start pressing 0 or ask to speak to an agent because you have questions, right? And in a legacy or traditional, purely deterministic system, it was really hard to answer more than just a few FAQs, right? That's one of the key things that LLMs have changed, that generative speech has made possible in a way that was just really, really hard before, and to a point where you quickly ran out of the ROI in order to justify the effort to get beyond 5 to 10 very frequently asked questions at like a particular part of the conversation. But to have a natural experience, like you should be able to ask any question at any time. You should be able to say you want to do a thing, and that you also then want to do two other things. And having these things like stacked intents, like FAQs in the moment, were almost impossible to do before the latest generation of technology. Now, at the same time, the value of these very deterministic capabilities that are only going to do the thing that you told them to do, are only going to read exactly the text that you send them with the, the currency values, for example, that you send them, that are going to call on your transactional APIs in a um, rules-based fashion that you've already had approved by security, that you've had in operation for 5 years, and that does not mess up. There's no opportunity or no capacity to hallucinate. There's no capacity to get it wrong. It is going to take the input and execute the action. Blending those two things together is incredibly powerful and exactly what customers need to get these new experiences that they envision to customers, which actually let them also solve problems, right?
So, Jim, when we talk about new experiences, right? Because what you said there about the mortgage application, I think was super interesting, right? Because how do we, with these new speech experiences, even that gets to a point like, well, I have to go fill out a mortgage application. Am I going to walk them through, right? That every prompt right through that, or is there a better way to do this? I think NLX has a good approach here, right? That I think is one of their strengths.
Yeah, it's a great point. Thanks for reminding me. So the other thing, and I think this is a product of their learnings working with customers, right, is that speech is not necessarily the best user experience, the best user interface for every type of interaction, right? It's a very natural one. It can help us do a lot of things, and it can move faster and be great when I'm in my car, for example, and I can't look at a computer screen. But there are more complex business processes that speech is not necessarily the best for. It can be a starting place, but it's not necessarily the best way to do it. Now, the good news is that we've all been on this digital transformation path for the last 25 years or so, right? Building websites, going from that first version of the Amazon website that you described, Doug, right, to what we have today. And so customers can do most everything. We were talking about banking before. You can do most everything that you have to do at a bank branch in the mobile application. And it's faster, it's easier, it's simple, right? In some cases, you can do more.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that NLX brought to the table that we found really novel and interesting, proprietary patent technology, is the ability to, in real time, synchronize activity that a customer might be taking in a digital property, so on web or in the mobile application, with the voice conversation, with the voice agent in real time. And what you can do with this, for example, is when a customer calls in, they have a particular interaction type that you already have self-service capabilities, let's say in your mobile app. You say, yep, I can help you with that. I can coach you through it. But we have that you have the ability to do that in your mobile app. Can I send you the link? And I will stay on the phone and I'll coach you through how to rebook your ticket, for example, how to apply for that mortgage, Mark, right? And I'll help you through the entire process, answer any questions you might have. Yeah, that sounds great. Send me the link. Send you a deep link, takes you into your mobile app. Now in many cases, you can be authenticated right there, and you don't have to do the authentication. You're not sharing PII. You're not sharing any sensitive information over the phone. Where you are, again, you can do those steps of the process with deterministic capabilities, right? But when you're moving into the mobile app, another novel thing that this does is it allows you to enable more by self-service without necessarily making that available via voice self-service. So the agent can't, for example, make that balance transfer. It can coach you how to do it, and it can show you exactly where to do it in the app, and it can make it easier than it's ever been. It can make it easier than it's ever been for you to apply for a mortgage, and it can answer 95% of the questions you ever might have in that process. But when you actually enter your social security number, you're going to be doing that in a secure website, right? In a secure form, and you're going to be the one that's clicking submit, rather than it being any AI-backed capability that's processing that part for you. So when you blend these things together, when you blend the latest technology to understand customers and to reason through their problem, to access tools like knowledge bases to help them, and also give them deterministic capabilities and this new capability to synchronize activity on web and mobile in real time with the voice agent, all of a sudden you have what we have found to be a very unique, pragmatic, really exciting set of capabilities that are exactly what these large organizations need to get these experiences out of pilot and into production, and not just the simple experiences that we're seeing already, which are intent detection and FAQs,
Right.
but all the way down through your whole set of self-service tasks that you want to enable for customers to enable that easier, uh, more lifelike, more natural than ever before, without without any risk that
I've been troubled for many years with the approach
That
people
could go
have.
anywhere, Doug. But
I know. This might be one of those long ones, Mark.
You have been troubled for many years, but that is a different podcast. It's a different
Right,
podcast.
exactly.
One of the troubles I've had for many years has been customers saying to me, we're interested in containment in the IBR. This will be familiar. Anyone who's listened this far into the podcast will be very familiar with these concepts. And deflection. We're interested in digital deflection, containment. The problem I've always had is that these are quite negative terms. They are suggesting you are coercing your customer away from what they want to do, which is actually get what they need from you, solve their problem in a polite, friendly way with someone who's nice. And you're saying, no, that costs me too much money. Because that's the other thing. People say, oh, we want to offer our customers choice. That's why we want to do self-service. When in actual fact, most of the time, I think they're speaking out of the other side of their mouth, when really what they're saying is, I want to reduce my costs. I don't want to pay for this human to do it. I want to lower my bottom line when it comes to these kinds of things. And in so doing, I'm going to make a worse experience for my customers, and I'm going to force them to do it by containing them and deflecting them and all that kind of thing. The thing I love about this is that it undoes all of that, where it's actually saying, I'm not trying to contain you. I'm trying to get you to your endpoint faster by guiding you. I'm now this friend on the phone who is actually helping you get what you need done. And that is even better than a human, because in this instance, because I'm here saying, hey, you see that field you just put in there? Or because you just told me your date of birth, I've actually filled that in that field for you. Like it's no longer containment.
You've hit on something super important here. And I think it's very rare that I'm in a room with two other people and ever accused of being the positive one, but I'm going to spin what you said in a slightly more positive tone. I do think that there are dark patterns out there, right? For example, you could contain 100% of calls by just never having agents that customers can reach and getting them into a dead-end self-service experience. And there is no option for them to speak to a human. Guess what? You just maintained 100% of your customer calls.
Well done.
But you may not have all those customers for very long because they don't enjoy working with you, right? So a much more common that I'm seeing take hold, a much more common KPI is like successful self-service rate, right? And we've seen that rise quite a lot over the last decade. Because most organizations do want to help their customers. Most organizations do realize that they're competing on customer experience, and they don't want to provide that dead end. But at the end of the day, containment hasn't gone away, deflection hasn't gone away, because that is the business case, right? At the end of the day, many times, certainly not all times, but many times, what pays for these investments and these projects to improve a set of capabilities is a cost reduction. And so often the easiest path to that is by showing that, hey, if I contain, or if I allow more customers to self-serve and they don't have to speak to an actual agent and take up their time, the costs of our operation are going to be lower, right?
And ultimately, most of the time, customers don't want to call you. For most organizations, they'd rather not be calling you. They'd rather not have a problem. They'd rather be doing a million other things, going on bike races and things like that.
Yeah, and so like what this makes me think about, I'm not sure if this is where you were going, and feel free to stop me, but the point that we're at today.
It's quite hard to stop you, Jim. I've got to say, it's quite hard.
Yeah, I don't
You've
make
been
it
our
easy.
most troublesome guest today.
Just talk fast. That's what you got to do. The last, I don't know, since LLMs came into the fold, and we've had a new set of capabilities that are much more lifelike, are much more natural, and make it easier to build a natural experience that can understand customers when they reach out to us via voice or text. There's been a great enthusiasm and desire to experiment and to start to work with this technology and start to see what experiences we can make available to customers. And I think that there was a learning period there where people were willing to experiment and just try things out and learn, right? What I've seen a very strong shift over the past 6 months or maybe a bit more, moving out of that learning phase and into, okay, how do I get to production? Right. And for many customers, it does come back to what you were just talking about, Doug, is like containment in a way to justify the effort. Right.
Well, I mean,
I have to have a
because
business case at the end of the
yeah,
day.
I mean, and the other part of the, I think when you said like quicker, right? It's not always necessarily quicker, right? It's more, having that empathetic experience, right? Or taking the time to help a customer, right? Ultimately get to the right solution of what they're trying to solve for. So I do, it's an AI is going to be infinitely more patient than a human might be, right? To work through those problems from that perspective. So that is an advantage. But I think when you look at the cost of the transaction, I don't, when you look at something like containment, it's a very narrow view of that, right? You're not looking at the potential of, the lifetime value of that customer, right? And how are you keeping that, and in terms of, in that particular context of that one transaction, right? If you're always looking at it, that one transaction, it's, it's
I
going to be,
completely agree. And looking
it's
at
very
things like
difficult to manage.
successful self-service rate, net promoter score, overall CSAT are much better measures of the experience
Yeah.
that you're delivering to customers. But
Yeah.
I said I was going to be overall positive here, and I am sympathetic to the fact that containment, deflection are still around because it is the easiest way for organizations to justify the investments in order to make these new capabilities available to their customers, right?
Now, I need to
Now,
go have some breakfast at some point, and you
Yes.
need to go
Well,
surfing, and you need to go ride your bike. So
I do, yes,
we need to
yeah.
bring this home because we're at 57 minutes, which is twice as long as we've ever done a podcast before, and it is all
We
good
have,
stuff.
yes.
But I don't know
It
how to
is.
end this because there's so much still to talk about. We didn't even
I
get
mean,
to the other type of model that we use, though, the space state model.
yeah, well, I can try. What do you guys want to try? Or you want me
bring
to
it
try?
home. Bring it home for us, Jim.
Yes, let's close it with this.
All right, so I think we answered one question in this entire podcast, and it took us an hour to do it. But the reason that we what have I been up to? Why do we make this investment in NLX? Is again, we saw.
I forgot that's what the question was.
It was.
That's what
we
I
saw
started
this.
with.
We saw a very talented organization that could bring a great experience to our customers and help them be successful faster. But we also saw a set of capabilities that were already well integrated to Amazon Connect. We're already built 100% on AWS. We're very easy to make part of Connect, right? Quickly. And that this set of capabilities was a really pragmatic, well thought out set of capabilities that not only make it much easier to build voice self-service and text-based self-service, but to do so in a way that actually solves problems for our customers, right?
Yes,
that allows them
actually
to
gets them to
blend
production.
deterministic and agentic AI, allows them to leverage all the self-service capabilities that they have in their digital properties in order to allow their customers to accomplish more, and to do all of this in a variety of different ways that coincide with wherever they are at in this journey, like wherever they are at in making their APIs available to be called as tools by agentic by agentic AI, right? By agents, wherever they're at in their security and compliance sort of guidance and practices to incorporate LLMs to do different things or to process different types of transactions. You can mix and match the capabilities that you use underneath and the way that you deliver that solution in a variety of ways without creating the need for custom code and for highly specialized developers to do
Or
all of this through
partners.
a very
You're not going to
intuitive
have
design environment in a way that actually solves problems for customers. And the thing I can't stress enough is one of the things that, of course, made this possible was our joint customers, where we saw time and again that Connect customers that were using NLX to build and manage their self-service were getting to production faster with better experiences and having higher CSAT from their customers, higher NPS, and higher self-service rates than
Could you name some of those
that were.
customers, Jim?
What's that?
Could you name some of them?
United Airlines, Saks Fifth Avenue are two of the main ones. So if you ever get stuck on the tarmac with and have to rebook a flight, have to deplane and rebook a flight, you'll often get sent a notification with your flight options. If you choose to then call in, which I have done in the past, because I'm like, I've got miles, I can, I'm important.
Don't you know who I am?
There's going to be more options than this for me.
Right, yes.
Spoiler alert: there's no more options. The ones that they give you are the options you have. But they will also, when you call in, they'll say, hey, I see that you're, it says Jim. Once they've identified you, which they can often do by your phone number, are you calling to rebook your flight? Yes. How about I send you a link and I'll coach you through your different flight options and we'll get this done for you. You get sent a link. It links directly into the web or your mobile application. You have those flight options available directly in front of you. It can help you navigate. It can highlight the flight options. You can speak to it and tell it which one you want to choose, or you can go ahead and select it yourself on the app, and the agent stays in sync with that and knows exactly what you're doing in real time. It's a fantastic experience. And they got that entire speech-powered experience, right? Speech-based experience with the real-time sync of the digital properties live in 3 months at United, and a similar experience live in just 6 weeks at Saks Fifth Avenue. And my entire career, I've never seen that kind of speed, much less coming out of that the teams at the customer being able to manage and continue to build on those experiences themselves without developers and speech scientists, linguists on their team. So
yeah,
that's what we did, and I can't wait to make it available to customers. It's going to be available just as part of Amazon Connect Customer coming up here at the end of July.
And Jim, I think maybe we'll bring you back, right, when we launch this thing, and go do spend another hour doing the deeper dive.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back. Happy to come back.
Cool.
Can't wait.
All right.
Awesome. Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Well, with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks, Mark. See you, Jim.